Barnacle geese are one of the most fascinating bird species out there. These striking creatures are decked out in bold black and white plumage. Their migration pattern is truly incredible, as they travel from the Arctic to Western Europe for the winter, sometimes in flocks numbering in the thousands. What's even more fascinating is the myth that once surrounded these birds. It was believed that they came from goose barnacles that grew on trees near the sea, and that they disappeared in the winter only to reappear in the spring as fully formed geese. People in medieval Europe observed two things during the summer. They could never find any barnacle goose eggs, nor could they catch any barnacle geese mating or building nests. So they put 1 and 2 together and came to this conclusion. Let's be real, even if I was living in that time, I would have believed it too. Why? Because I wouldn't have been able to find their eggs or catch them mating, even their nests would have been nowhere to be found. But do you know why people could never find any barnacle geese during that time? Because they nest very high up, usually more than 400 feet off the ground. Female geese can lose 30% of their body weight while incubating their eggs. The incubation period lasts for around 25 to 28 days, and the female will sit on her eggs for long periods of time, only getting up briefly to feed or drink. While many nests fail in these harsh, cold mountains, this mother was able to hatch 3 of her eggs. These chicks are lucky to have made it, but for them, the greatest challenge is still to come. This goose couple decided to make their nest on a 400-foot pinnacle. This choice may seem reckless, but that was the only way to avoid predators, like Arctic foxes, who love to eat young gooselings or eggs. After hatching, if the chicks don't get any food in the first 36 hours, they'll starve to death. Barnacle geese can't feed their young in the nest because the grass they eat is a mile away by the river. These chicks are not able to fly immediately. It takes about a month for them to develop their flight feathers and build up their strength before they are able to take their first flight. During this time, the chicks rely on their parents for food, warmth, and protection. Now the only way to find the food is to go down 400 feet, and that's what they do. Mother leads the way. With mother's call, the first chick jumps. The chick goes down flat and hits the ground with a heavy impact. It may seem this chick is dead, but incredibly it survived. However, it's stunned and dangerously exposed. Ravens are known to prey on these goslings. While barnacle geese are protective parents, they cannot defend their young against all predators. Ravens are clever and opportunistic hunters, and this time it was able to snatch this gosling from the ground, even though mother tried to save it. 1 chick taken. Now hope rests with the other 2 on the top of the pinnacle. The second chick jumped from the back of the cliff. It is a shorter drop, but it's much harder to avoid the rocks. With that many hits on the rocks, this chick also did not survive. The third and last chick jumps courageously from the edge of the cliff, hitting the rocks many times, and it ends up on the snow. The snow cushions the impact, but with no grip, the chick keeps falling, and its parents have joined it on the way. Fortunately, the chick survived and now will be able to feed on the grass with its parents. Less than 50% of chicks hatched on the cliffs will make it through the first month. Life on the cliffs can be harsh and unforgiving, with limited food and water sources and the constant threat of predators. Despite these challenges, barnacle geese have evolved to thrive in this environment, and their ability to adapt and persevere in the face of adversity is a testament to the resilience of nature. They are known for their distinctive honking calls, which can be heard echoing across their breeding grounds. While their calling behavior may sound strange to human ears, it's actually a critical part of their social communication and bonding. This bird is monogamous, and they mate for life. During the breeding season, they will form a strong pair bond with a single mate, and they will return to the same nesting site each year to breed together. One interesting fact is that they have a unique migration route that takes them from their breeding grounds in the Arctic down to their wintering grounds in Western Europe. Along the way, they make a stopover on the island of Svalbard in the Norwegian Arctic, where they molt their flight feathers and are unable to fly for several weeks. During this time, they are vulnerable to predation and must rely on nearby food sources to survive. Once their feathers have regrown, they continue their migration to their wintering grounds, where they will spend the rest of the year feeding and preparing for the next breeding season. They've got incredible navigational abilities which allow them to migrate over long distances to their breeding and wintering grounds. Researchers have discovered that these birds rely on a variety of cues to navigate, including celestial cues such as the position of the sun and stars, the Earth's magnetic field, and even visual landmarks such as coastlines and mountains. In fact, studies have shown that young barnacle geese can even learn their migratory route from their parents during their first migration, and that they can navigate accurately even in the absence of visual landmarks or other cues. This remarkable navigational ability is just one example of the many adaptations that barnacle geese have developed in order to survive and thrive in their challenging environment. Another beautiful and fascinating bird we have on our list is the hooded merganser duck, which is a small-sized duck that is widely distributed across North America. Breeding season for them begins in late winter, with males arriving at breeding grounds first to establish territories and attract females with their striking plumage and courtship displays. Hooded merganser ducklings will jump from their nest cavity to the ground shortly after hatching, just like barnacle geese chicks. Unlike many other duck species that are born with downy feathers and can walk and feed themselves shortly after hatching, hooded merganser ducklings are born with very few feathers and are unable to walk or feed themselves. To begin their journey towards the water, the mother hooded merganser calls to her chicks from the ground, encouraging them to jump from the nest cavity, which can be up to 50 feet above the ground. The mother hooded merganser will then lead her chicks to the nearest body of water, where they can begin to learn how to swim and dive for food. Wood ducklings also jump from their nest cavity shortly after hatching. Like hooded mergansers, wood ducks are cavity-nesting ducks that often use tree cavities as their nesting sites. The wood duck's nesting cavity can be up to 60 feet above the ground, and the eggs are laid on a bed of down feathers that the female plucks from her own breast. When the eggs hatch, the female wood duck will encourage her ducklings to jump from the nest cavity and make their way to the ground. The ducklings are capable of jumping from the nest cavity when they are just a day or two old. Once on the ground, the mother wood duck will lead her ducklings to the nearest body of water, where they can begin to learn how to swim and dive for food. Like hooded merganser ducklings, wood ducklings are vulnerable to predators on the ground after they jump from the nest cavity. However, jumping from the nest and making their way to the water is an instinctual behavior that has evolved to help the ducklings reach the safety of the water as quickly as possible. Golden-eye ducklings also jump from high cavities. When common golden-eye ducklings are born, they are born with a full set of down feathers that help keep them warm. After a day or two, they are able to leave the nest and follow their mother to the water. Usually their nesting cavity is located high up, and ducklings have to jump from the cavity to the ground below in order to reach the water. The jumping behavior is a survival mechanism that has evolved over time to help the ducklings reach the safety of the water quickly. Ducklings are vulnerable to predators such as raccoons and snakes on the ground, and jumping from a high cavity allows them to quickly reach the safety of the water, where they can swim and dive for food. While the jumping behavior of common golden-eye ducklings is not as well known as that of wood ducklings and hooded merganser ducklings, it is still an important part of their natural adaptation to their environment. It is important to observe and appreciate these unique behaviors from a safe distance without disturbing the natural behaviors of the ducks. The natural world is full of fascinating behaviors and adaptations that have evolved over millions of years to help animals survive and thrive in their environments. Some of these behaviors, like jumping from high cliff, may seem unusual or even risky, but they are an important part of an animal's natural behavior and survival strategy. That concludes our video today. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to subscribe to your Top 10s for more videos. Thank you for watching.